Emily picked up the meal served by the cafeteria lady and turned to sit in a secluded corner. She sighed at the sight of her tomato scrambled eggs, which lacked any actual eggs.
If I were the cafeteria lady, I'd be biased too.
The reason she chose this corner was because she saw her crush, James, sitting diagonally across 2 tables away. Sunlight streamed through the cafeteria windows, casting a golden glow on James's black hair.
Emily, why are you sitting in such a remote place? I almost couldn't find you.
Sophia placed her lunchbox in front of Emily. She was fair-skinned, beautiful, academically excellent, and kind-hearted, making her the object of many admirers.
Isn't a secluded corner nice? No sunlight, protecting our dear Sophia's fair skin.
Emily took another bite of the tomato scrambled eggs, avoiding looking at James. Sophia seemed to understand and glanced at James before turning back with a knowing expression.
You know, you could just admit you like James. It's obvious.
We're from 2 different worlds, Sophia. I can only admire him from afar.
After finishing their meal, Emily and Sophia went to the small shop to buy snacks before heading back to the classroom. As Emily sat down, she realized something was wrong.
Wait, where's my notebook?
What's wrong?
I lost something.
Emily hurriedly ran out, reaching the empty cafeteria breathlessly. Tragically, there wasn't a single notebook in sight.
It's gone. Someone might find it and read everything.
The notebook was filled with private writings about James, explicitly detailed fanfiction that she had written for fun. The thought of someone reading it made her even more desperate.
By tomorrow, Emily might become a notorious name throughout the school.
Dejected, Emily returned to the classroom and silently prayed that the person who found it knew her and wouldn't open it.
Are you okay? You've been down all day.
Just tired, I guess.
Without her notebook and facing an afternoon of her least favorite subject, math, Emily was in a low mood. Sophia noticed and gave her all the snacks from her desk during the break. Emily looked at her gratefully, on the verge of tears, continuing to pray.
Here, have some cookies. Maybe it'll cheer you up.
And so, Emily muddled through the afternoon. During the second break of evening self-study, the surroundings were noisy. Emily was still listless.
Emily, someone is looking for you.
Emily's heart raced as she turned to see who it was. The classroom door creaked open and I looked up in confusion. Could it be the person who found my notebook?
Quickly jumped up from my seat and hurried to the door.
However, just as I stepped outside, I saw someone unexpected. James was standing by the window, the dim light in the hallway making him appear somewhat surreal.
Is this your notebook?
This was the first time I had officially come face to face with James. My heart started pounding. Nervousness and unease took over, but panic was even stronger. Could he be here to confront me?
Yes, did you open it?
I nodded, trying to appear calm as I asked back. In the dim light, I couldn't quite make out James's expression. He looked down at me and smiled. His laughter was also pleasant.
No.
The pause in between made me even more anxious. I hoped he hadn't opened it. I prayed silently. Emily let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness it wasn't what she feared.
You have no idea how anxious I was watching James holding that yellow fanfiction filled with his name.
At that moment, all she wanted was to escape the scene.
Thank you. Can I go in now?
James nodded but didn't seem to have any intention of leaving.
Since he helped you find your stuff, shouldn't you at least treat him to a cup of milk tea as a thank you?
I don't drink milk tea.
Then how about a meal? After all, that notebook is pretty important to Emily. She was distraught all afternoon.
Jessica patted Emily twice.
That works.
Emily stood there, wide-eyed, watching as the two of them decided in just a few sentences that she would treat James to a meal. When Emily got home, it still felt unreal. She grabbed the pillow on her bed and howled.
Aw, what should I treat him to?
Then she twisted around on the bed like a madwoman. Finally, she opened her notebook and calmed down.
I'll write a story about returning lost items and thanking the person who found them.
The weekend arrived quickly. Emily got to a small noodle shop near the school earlier than them. This place was popular among students for its affordable and delicious food. Emily stood at the entrance waiting for James. Jessica was supposed to come too, but she had to visit her grandparents unexpectedly. While waiting for James, Emily started daydreaming again.
I met James at the beginning of our first year in high school. We didn't go to the same middle school. Before that, I had no idea someone like him existed, just like a novel's male lead.
She had been the English class representative in middle school and continued in that role in high school. As a newcomer, she wasn't familiar with the school or the people, knowing only a few. While helping the teacher move some books, a few slipped from her hands and she was holding a thick stack. As she was pondering how to pick up the fallen books, James appeared.
Let me help you with that.
He neatly stacked the books and gently placed them in her hands, carrying a fresh scent of body wash. When he put the books down, his fingers accidentally brushed against hers. It was a tingling sensation that traveled from her fingertips to her heart.
Sorry about that.
Emily looked up, and although their eyes didn't meet, he left a lasting impression on her student days. It was the first time she saw someone so good-looking in real life. Even TV stars and idols couldn't compare to him. He struck her heart instantly.
I realized I was a sucker for good looks. As I got to know James better, I discovered he was truly versatile. Whether it was piano, painting, or academics, he excelled effortlessly. People like him really do exist.
Her initial amazement turned into admiration. She also yearned to become someone like him. So she secretly found tutorials online and started learning to draw.
A year later, I had made some progress and even had a few fans commissioning my work. I asked my parents to enroll me in classes, hoping to get on the honor roll and be closer to him.
But the more she tried, the more she sometimes felt pain. Because it was never enough. There was a significant gap between them, a gap she couldn't bridge no matter how hard she tried. So she could only steal glances at him.
Sometimes I feel frustrated, but I turn that frustration into motivation to study harder because I'm a coward. Among those who liked him, I was just another insignificant one.
James and I sat down at the cafeteria, the aroma of tomato and egg noodles filling the air.
A bowl of tomato and egg noodles, please.
James had a particular fondness for tomato and egg dishes. Every time he visited the first floor cafeteria, he ordered the same thing. The cafeteria lady, possibly charmed by his appearance, often gave him extra eggs. Gathering my courage, I placed my order.
I'll have a bowl of tomato and egg noodles too.
My heart raced as I sat across from my crush. Trying to appear calm, I casually picked up the vinegar and poured some into my noodles.
Do you like adding vinegar to your tomato and egg noodles?
I love vinegar.
I like adding vinegar too.
His words made my heart skip a beat. Sharing a little habit with someone you like was such a joy. I buried my head in my bowl, trying to hide my excitement. The noodles tasted even better. As I watched James' long, slender fingers and slightly prominent veins, I got lost in thought and choked on my food. I pounded my chest frantically, my face turning red from choking. James quickly handed me a glass of water.
Take it slow.
Once I recovered, James started some small talk.
I heard you're really good at English.
Not bad, top 3 in the class, but I'm not great at math and science.
Then why did you choose to study chemistry and biology?
My parents said it's easier to find a job with a science background.
Do you have a school in mind for the future?
Not yet. What about you?
I answered James' questions one by one and then finally asked the question I had always wanted to know.
Probably a university, if nothing unexpected happens.
I nodded. It made sense. If James didn't choose to study abroad, a university was the best choice. Thinking about it made me a bit melancholic. I was still a bit short of getting into a university despite working so hard to catch up with him.
You'll definitely make it.
I met James' gaze and smiled confidently. Just as I was about to say something more, a voice interrupted us.
James, what are you doing here?
A girl wearing the school uniform of number 2 high school walked over, followed by another girl with twin ponytails.
I just went to your house to look for you. Your mom said you weren't there. I didn't expect to run into you here.
As she spoke, Hannah casually pulled up a chair next to James and sat down. The girl behind her also found a chair and sat down.
I looked at this girl. She was quite pretty, petite, and cute, but her features lacked the elegance of Jessica's.
Why do you keep coming to my house to find me?
I have a math problem I can't solve. You know, I'm about to participate in the national math competition, and my parents want me to ask you for help.
Feeling ignored, I frowned, feeling very uncomfortable. Just as I was about to speak, James spoke first.
Can't you see I'm having a meal with someone?
At this point, Hannah finally looked at me.
Sorry, I thought you were just sharing the table. After all, it's the first time I've seen a girl eating with James. My name is Hannah.
Emily.
I didn't believe for a second that she hadn't intentionally ignored me. I grumbled internally.
What a coincidence, we both have ABB names.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
Later, the table meant for 2 somehow accommodated 4 people with 4 bowls of tomato and egg noodles crowding the small space. Hannah kept talking non-stop, either about her childhood with James or asking about national math problems.
To be honest, I didn't enjoy this meal at all. I didn't like hearing too much about how close she and James were as kids. It made me a bit jealous. I also didn't like hearing too much about national math problems because I couldn't understand them. All of this reminded me of the vast distance between James and me.
In the end, Hannah found an excuse to have dinner and followed James home. James gave me an apologetic smile, knowing that Hannah's lack of boundaries might make me uncomfortable. However, thanks to his apology, James and I successfully added each other as friends.
Glaring, what are you looking at?
I responded with an eye roll, thinking, you're not the only one with eyes. After that meal, James started greeting me whenever he saw me. I was, of course, flattered. Eventually, it became a habit, and some classmates even asked me to pass love letters to him.
Shyly, can you give this letter to James?
I was taken aback.
Surprised, I'm not that close to him.
James and I were merely acquaintances who nodded at each other. I hadn't even confessed my feelings, yet I was supposed to help others.
Politely, I'm sorry, but I can't do that.
I declined each request, especially since we would be seniors next year. I couldn't let these things distract James. Summer arrived, and the noisy cicadas of midsummer began their chorus. Next year would be our senior year, and I wanted to be in the same city as James. Even being a bit closer would be nice, so I asked my parents to enroll me in a tutoring class.
Determined, Mom, Dad, I want to take a tutoring class this summer.
Pleased, that's wonderful. We're so proud of you.
Despite my usual aversion to studying, I started giving it my all. My parents were naturally pleased, unaware that their daughter was doing it all for a boy. James and I occasionally kept in touch via phone, though it was mostly me asking him about homework.
Texting, hey, how do you solve this math problem?
It seemed James couldn't use his phone often, as he would frequently disappear mid-conversation. I had grown accustomed to it.
Smiling, at least he replies.
During the summer, I often walked alone through a narrow path to my tutoring class, with last year's listening exercises playing in my earphones. Snap, I stepped on a twig and paused. I heard crying from a hidden corner not far from the path.
Concerned, hello? Is some.
The sun was setting, casting long shadows along the path. The only sounds were distant sobs and my hesitant footsteps. Curiosity got the better of me.
Walking over, Hannah, is that you?
I found Hannah crying, her tears glistening in the dim light. When she noticed me, she quickly buried her head in her arms.
Why can't it be me?
The sunset stretched our shadows even longer.
Casually sitting down, what's wrong?
None of your business.
Fine, I won't care then. You're annoying anyway.
Her sobs grew louder.
So what if I'm annoying?
I remembered her past behavior. She was indeed a bit much at times, but seeing her so vulnerable now, she didn't seem all that bad.
You look kind of cute when you cry. Who managed to upset you this much?
Hannah sobbed for a while longer before she began to confide in me. She had been betrayed by Megan, the girl who once looked up to her. Megan had been spreading rumors, saying Hannah was bossy, had a bad temper, and loved tattling to the teachers.
Megan's word spread, and now I'm an outcast. I don't care what others think, but being betrayed by my best friend hurts. I always shared my favorite things with her.
Why would your best friend hurt you?
Hannah cried even harder, clearly devastated. After she cried herself out, I gently patted her shoulder.
Relationships are complicated. If she's two-faced, she's not worth your tears. As for your classmates, if you're not a bad person, there's no need to be upset. People come and go. Don't let this affect your studies.
I patted her shoulder again for reassurance. Hannah wiped her tears and looked up at the sky.
You're right. So what if I'm bossy? They won't be able to reach me in the future, they're just jealous.
He turned to me with a newfound determination.
Alright, maybe you're not that annoying after all.
Wide-eyed, you're the most annoying one, okay?
We both ended up laughing. The unexpected happened. I found myself comforting Hannah. Even I was surprised by it. Initially, I had disliked her, probably because she was close to James. Yet, after a particular incident, we began to stay in touch more frequently.
You're really slow at this, but here are the detailed steps. Try to follow them.
Despite often calling me slow, Hannah would send me meticulous solutions to math problems. Her math skills were indeed impressive, like having a free tutor. As the mock exams approached, my anxiety grew daily. Jessica continued to stuff snacks into my hands, reassuring me that I could do it.
You've got this. Keep your energy up with these snacks.
I was eager to go to the city where James lived. Just the weekend before the mock exams, Hannah invited me over to study together.
Come over this weekend. We can work on problems together.
I agreed without hesitation. It was essentially a tutoring session. That day I actually saw James. My heart raced wildly. Hannah had specifically invited him over to help.
Ding. Remember to thank me. His mom is strict, you have no idea how hard it is to get him here.
I looked up to see Hannah winking at me. James's math skills were just as impressive, and his explanations were even more straightforward than Hannah's.
Here, let me explain this step. It's simpler than it seems.
Although my heart raced at first, I eventually became absorbed in the study session. Unconsciously, I managed to fill in many gaps in my knowledge. As a token of appreciation, I gave the yogurt I brought to James.
Thank you for your help. Here, I brought this for you.
In the subsequent mock exams, my math scores improved significantly, boosting my overall ranking by 10 places. Overjoyed, I gave Jessica a bunch of snacks.
These are for you, Jessica. Thanks for always believing in me.
I even went to James's class to give him some treats, under the pretense of thanking him.
Hey, James. Thanks again for your help. I brought you some treats.
It was the first time I openly gave someone a gift. On the eve of the college entrance exams, I also gave James a card. It read,
"We all have a bright future. You do, and so will I."
James still looked at me with his usual gentle smile.
Yes, Emily, good luck with the college entrance exams.
It was the first time I heard James call me Emily. Indeed, names with an ABB pattern do sound more affectionate, making the air feel warmer when spoken. But why was James being so gentle? My face suddenly felt hot and I quickly ran away.
However, I soon adjusted my state of mind and focused on the exam.
The wait for the results was long. After the exams, I felt an unexpected emptiness.
Emily, let's go shopping.
She immediately linked arms with me, but I felt a bit down.
Now that the exams were over, would James and I lead parallel lives with no intersections? Yes, that was the reality. But I would still strive to get closer to him.
With that thought, my resolve strengthened.
Emily, what are you thinking? You look so determined, like you're about to join a cause.
Hearing that, I immediately pounced on Jessica and tickled her.
Oh, you think so? Take this.
After the exams, I indulged in food and fun. At the graduation ceremony, our entire class cried like a bunch of tearful messes.
You all have a bright future ahead.
We celebrated wildly, tearing our exam papers into pieces. But after taking the graduation photo, I felt a sudden surge of loneliness. This was the last day. The last day I would be this close to James. My heart started pounding wildly.
Am I content? 3 years of silently working hard for someone. Even if it was just self-motivation. But am I content? No, I'm not.
I suddenly dashed upstairs. James' class was on the upper floor. Just as I reached the staircase, James was coming down. He seemed a bit surprised to see me.
Emily?
I finally gathered my courage.
James, can I take a photo with you?
A real photo. It's not like I hadn't secretly taken photos with James before. At the sports meet, when James stood on the podium holding his medal, I stood at a distance and had Jessica take a misaligned photo of us. The blurry CCD image captured the bittersweetness of my unspoken crush. There were many such photos, just like my notebook, hidden from the. One memorable day I took a photo with James. He stood on the left and I was on the right. It was just the two of us. The memory of that moment made it hard to sleep, even with the college entrance exam results looming. The results finally came and I cried tears of joy. 3 years of hard work had paid off. I performed exceptionally well, scoring over 30 points higher than usual, which secured me a spot in a decent program at University A. But that wasn't the best part. James and I were going to the same school again. I picked up my phone to share the news with James. However, I hesitated, writing and deleting my message multiple times. Eventually, I decided not to send anything.
How did you do?
His message came first and my eyes lit up.
I can go to University A.
James was thrilled and suggested we meet the next day as he had something important to tell me. Without hesitation, I agreed and we arranged to meet at the nearby plaza. James arrived in a gray tracksuit looking as handsome as ever. I couldn't take my eyes off him. It was just the two of us and I felt a bit nervous. To ease the tension, we wandered around the nearby shops and had some desserts. James seemed to really enjoy the desserts. Every time he took a bite, I imagined a tail wagging behind him. Why did it feel like a date? The thought made me feel both excited and anxious.
Why did you suddenly want to meet up?
James fell silent and a tense atmosphere spread between us. His face gradually turned red and it was the first time I had seen him like this. Could it really be what I was thinking?
I like you. Will you be with me?
Oh my goodness. I don't remember how I got home. I just felt completely at a loss. The unattainable person in my heart had suddenly confessed to me. It felt like a scene straight out of a novel. After I started dating James, I realized he wasn't the aloof campus heartthrob I had imagined. Instead, he was more like a sweet, affectionate kitten. Quite clingy, actually.
James, why do you call me so often?
I just miss you, Emily. I can't help it.
In college, he often stayed in the lab while I was busy running between various clubs and student councils. It wasn't exactly the carefree college life I had envisioned. We were both very busy.
Are you free tonight? We haven't spent time together in days.
I'll try, James. But I have a meeting and a club event. I'll message you as soon as I'm done.
Sometimes, if I didn't message James for 3 hours, he would call me repeatedly to ask what I was doing.
Emily, are you okay? You haven't responded for a while.
I'm fine, James. Just caught up with some club work.
Other times, I would miss him terribly, but he would be held back by his advisor to discuss research topics.
I miss you, James. When can we meet?
I'm stuck with my advisor right now. But soon, I promise.
However, whenever we were together, James would nuzzle into my neck and act all cuddly, a complete contrast to his high school self. I have to admit, he had me wrapped around his finger.
You're such a cuddly kitten, James.
Only for you, Emily.
James and I saved up money from our part-time jobs to visit a place we had always wanted to see. We kissed at sunset amidst the rolling hills.
This place is beautiful. And the sunset, it's perfect.
Not as perfect as this moment with you, Emily.
I had never imagined what James's kiss would be like. In high school, I didn't dare to dream about it. Even after we got together, it took a long time before we had our first kiss.
Do you remember our first kiss?
How could I forget? It was after that night I got a bit tipsy.
That first kiss happened after James got drunk. His parents had a fierce argument that night, and it was the first time I got to know James up close.
My parents, they were fighting again. I just needed to escape.
I'm here for you, James. Always.
He wasn't as well behaved as I had thought. In fact, he had skipped classes to buy burgers at the nearby KFC, and he often had small gatherings with friends at a local bar.
I never knew you skipped classes for burgers.
Guilty as charged. But I never crossed the line.
But he was smart and clear-headed, never crossing the line. Despite never having been in a relationship before, he still excelled academically because his parents were strict.
My parents, they were always so demanding.
You did great, James. Despite everything.
James, a prodigy, had often been subjected to his father's harsh discipline and his mother's so-called moral coercion.
James, I gave birth to you. I'm your mother. You should listen to me.
James, you wouldn't be where you are today if it weren't for us.
To his mother, James was an extension of herself. His achievements were not due to his own determination and discipline but rather his genetic makeup.
Sometimes, I feel like I'm just living their dreams, not mine.
You are more than that, James. So much more.
James had doubted himself. This time he drank because his parents separated without consulting him. He felt abandoned.
They didn't even ask me. Just decided.
I'm so sorry, James. You deserve better.
I felt a pang of sympathy for James, realizing that such a gentle person had grown up in such an environment. I hugged him.
You're not alone, James.
James's eyes were red. It was the first time I saw him so vulnerable.
Emily.
He looked at me for a long time, then leaned in to kiss me.
I just need you right now.
The kiss, tinged with the taste of alcohol, was not the cold kiss I had imagined. It was fiery and intense, as if he wanted to Since then, James had become quite clingy.
Holding her hand, I can't help it. I just want to be close to you all the time.
Whenever I was around, he would hold my hand and link his arm with mine. During gatherings, he would text me under the table.
Texting under the table, I want a kiss.
Though I considered myself quite experienced, I couldn't resist James's advances. Beneath his serious exterior was a whirlwind of emotions, making him irresistibly adorable. It was hard for me to keep my composure. I would calmly tell the people at the table that I needed to use the restroom, and then I would have James accompany me.
Smiling at the group, "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. James, could you come with me?"
They would tease me for being clingy, but in reality, it was James who was clingy.
Laughing, you two are inseparable.
Teasing, can't even go to the restroom alone, huh?
We would steal a few kisses in a secluded corner near the restroom.
Blushing, happy now?
Licking his lips and pressing his forehead against hers, just a little longer.
The warmth between them was palpable, making their connection even stronger. As graduation day approached, a life-changing moment was about to unfold.
Smiling, will you marry me?
I stood there, stunned and curious about why James had chosen me.
Hesitant, "James, why are you interested in me?"
James would often just smile and say nothing, leaving me in suspense.
Grinning, "Let me tell you a secret today."
On the day of his proposal, James finally revealed the truth.
Laughing, "I accidentally saw your notebook."
It all started one breezy afternoon. My notebook was fluttering in the wind on my desk. James, while clearing his meal, noticed something intriguing.
Reminiscing, my sharp eyes caught a glimpse of a page with my name written on it.
An entire page with a big James written on it. Hearts of various colors surrounded his name, bold and eye-catching.
Amused, I picked up the notebook, curious to see more.
What he found on the next page was even more surprising.
Smiling, it was filled with tiny, densely packed words that were very personal.
He recalled me and knew which class I was in.
Thoughtful, at first, I thought it was a bit odd, but then I got to know you.
To his surprise, he found me sincere and adorable. Beneath my innocent appearance was a passionate heart.
Softly, maybe love is just indescribable.
From that moment, James often teased me.
Teasing, bring out the notebook and act out the lines and poses written in it.
I never expected James to have such a playful side.
Laughing, "I can't believe this is happening."
Writing those words was fun at the moment, but it led to an unexpected and beautiful outcome. Emily stood in front of the mirror, dressed in a pristine white wedding gown, hardly believing what she saw.
So, I really ended up with the person who amazed me in my youth.
Jessica and Hannah appeared behind her, smiles lighting up their faces.
Emily, are you ready?
Emily turned to face them, giving a nod of affirmation.
Yes, I am.
Step by step, she walked towards her beloved, towards her future.
They say marriage is the end of romance, but James made me willingly embrace this new chapter.
The ceremony unfolded beautifully. Rings and vows were exchanged, each word resonating with their past selves and promising their future.
I vow to stand by you, through all of life's trials and joys.
And I vow to cherish every moment with you, to turn our uncertainties into strength.
The joy of youth was filled with uncertainty, but it was enough to transform Emily from a timid soul into a brave lover.